So welcome back, and thanks so much for joining me again today. So in our last video, I had mentioned that we want to start working towards some sort of usable game, and I think that's what we're going to do today. You know, we have quite a bit of work to do, and I honestly think we're probably going to have to break it up into 2 videos. But we'll get through it, and we'll see how long it is, and I'll decide on editing just to keep the videos within a certain length. So the first thing we're going to do is, if you look in the top left-hand corner there, we can see that we actually have a score. Now, it's not the best. It's kind of functional now. It'll get us started, and I think in future videos we'll make it a little bit more graphically pleasing. But for now, it works okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to make our projectile or our land trace be able to destroy things. I can't really demonstrate that just at the moment. Well, sure I can here. I'm going to show you in a moment. And we're going to build these little target guys. Now that one's just a prototype, but it'll work for us. So our line trace will be able to destroy these things, and this is what that looks like. And we can see it sort of disappears, and then there's a kind of an explosion emitter, and then we kind of see this 10-point thing go flying up, which is quite common in games. Then we can see our little score goes up as well. So that's kind of how that looks, and kind of gets us going into a kind of a player game. We don't have a win condition or anything like that, but that's a good start. And rather than that being the target, we're going to do something more like this, which seems a bit more appropriate for a target shooter game. But that's going to get us started and get us kind of lay down a foundation for us. And then later on we can look at how we can pop these guys up and move them around. And you can do other things that really will add some life to it. So let's jump into this and get going. So to start building our little target, we're going to have to find some graphics. Now, if you're ever wondering what formats work in Unreal 4, I just went online and had a look at the Unreal 4 engine documentation. And in here in the texture import guide, if we scroll down, we see a list of the different formats that work. I'm going to use PNGs, PNGs. There's some dimensional requirements, but I have to admit I did ignore these for this little project. But, pay attention to this and make sure you stick to their little guidelines here if you want to make sure that everything works properly. There are quite a few websites, obviously, with graphics online. I found this one that worked for me, Free Vector. Now, they do have quite a bit of free content on here, but you have to give attribution. So we definitely want to give credit to Free Vector. That's going to be www.freevector.com. And in there, I found this little artwork here. We'll have to crop it, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But this is the one I had. You can just go ahead and download it. And we want to make sure that we give attribution to nixvex.deviantart.com. They're the ones that created this artwork. We do want to thank them for making it available to us. So we can just go ahead and download that. Now we know how to bring in images into our folder. So I'm just going to go back into Unreal here and just minimize it real quick. And let's just take a look at what the artwork is. So again, I brought it in, and I just used a couple of free programs that ship with Windows 10, one being Paint 3D, the other one being Photo. And this is what I ended up with, and I just cropped it. And I made actually 3 versions of it. I made that one, which is a little darkened version of it. And I made this one. I'm not going to use the light version. I'm not too happy with it. So we're just going to use this one and this one. So we've cropped it down to the size. So there that is. And we know how to import it. So I'm just in my quadruple A Tom map. This is where we've been building our little character. And here in my Tom Custom Assets folder, I'm going to make another folder real quick. So let's call this one Textures. And you can organize these folders any way you want. This is kind of the way Epic does it. They keep their materials and textures separate, so that's what we're going to do. So let's pop open that texture. And we're going to grab these 2 images here, and we're just going to drag them in. We know how to do this very easily. Okay, there it is in the game. So let's go back out into our Tom Custom folder and into our material folder, and we're going to create a material blueprint. So let's right click, let's go to material, put that in there, and we'll call this, target art blueprint, like so. And let's open that up, and actually we can maximize this. Let's open that up. And let's keep it minimal just so I can show you how to drag this stuff in. It's kind of handy the way this works. So there's our material. We know how to do this. We've seen this before. So let's go back in here, Tom Custom Assets, into the textures. And if we just drag these 2 images in here, and they're pangs, as I said, it creates a couple of nodes for us, and that's kind of handy. Let's go ahead and dock that. Okay, so there we are there. And let's zoom in a little bit. And let's drag this out. And I'm just going to make a copy of the original one, the normal one, if you will, not the one that's darkened. So let's go ahead and make a copy of that one real quick. There it is. All right, perfect. So let's start with this original one. We're just going to drag it up here. I'm just going to basically connect this RGB tab to the base color, just like so. I'm also going to add a constant in here. You don't have to do this, but I kind of like it. It looks great. A constant just is one value, and we can tell it what value down here. So I'll just put a 1. Because our metallic is actually 0 to 1, and we want full metallic. So I'm going to drag that out and just plug it in there. This metallic you can skip, but I kind of like the look that it gives. So basically we're going to end up with 4 additional nodes here. Let's start off with a time node. Time, just simple time. Let's click on it. And let's click here for period, and let's put a 1 in here for a value, just like so. Next thing we're going to put in is a sine node, just S-I-N-E, there it is there. Let's make sure it's selected, and here for the period we'll make sure it's 1. And this is going to give us kind of an undulating, so dark to light, just to bring that graphic to life a little bit. So there's that. We're going to add a ceiling, so just there. And actually, if we go Control-Alt, just remember, when you hover over any node and you go Control-Alt, it explains it. So a ceiling expression just takes a value and rounds it up to the next integer. So very simple. All right, so there's that. There's no value to change there. And then finally, let's put in a linear interpolation. Linear interpolation, which is a lerp. Okay, so there it is there. So here's how we're going to connect this. So our 2 texture samples, we're going to come up from RGB, and we're going to put this one in channel A and put that guy in channel B. And we're going to take our time node and we're going to put it into our sine, like so. Then out of our sine, one channel we're going to take into our ceiling. And then we're going to branch this off and put that into the alpha, like so. And we're going to take our output from our alpha and put that in the emissive. So that's our texture there. So let's go ahead and save that. And we'll see how that looks just in a moment. I'm going to tidy it up later. We'll just keep moving along here so we can save time. We don't need that anymore. Now we're going to create actually one more material, just a black color. So let me right click there, create another material. And let's just call it black color blueprint. There it is there. Let's open it up. And let's go ahead and dock that here. And we actually saw this in a couple of videos, actually in the very first one. So let's put a vector parameter, like so. And we want to select the black color. It's already selected for us, so that's good there. And we just want to drag that out and put that into the base color, just like that. And you'll see why we need this black color in a second. Okay, there it is there. Let's save. All right, done. So we can close that actually. All right, so let's go back into our root folder, Tom Custom Assets. We're going to create another folder, and we're just going to call this Blueprints. Okay, there it is there. I'm going to pop that open. So we're in there. All right, so let's create our little actor, and we're going to create a static mesh out of this. So let's just start off in our geometry. Let's drag in a box. Everything starts with a box, it seems like. So for the size of that box, let's see here. Wide is going to be 100. Thick, I think we're going to go with something fairly thin. There's 8. There it is there. And I think tall is fine. Okay, 200. So there it is there. So now we're going to go into those materials that we created. And let's put in our little target guy. So let's just drag it in there. I'm going to have to adjust that size. So let's click on that brush. I think all we have to do is go down here to scale and hit 2 there and apply. And there it is there. And we can see it kind of undulates, kind of flickers. And that's kind of nice. I think that works for me. All right. And then we'll put that on the other side as well. We'll have to fix the size. So we can just go to select the side, 2 here, and apply. There it is there. And this is what we use the black for. We're just going to put it on the edges here just to make it kind of look nice. So let's drag that on there like so. Drag this on here. And on this side. We don't have to do the bottom. We'll probably have to do the bottom later. You know what? Let's do the bottom just so we're covered in case this thing, for whatever reason, we see underneath it. So there's that edge on there. Just so we don't have to mess with it later. Okay, there it is there. Let's go ahead and drop that down using the N key. Okay, there it is there. Now, what we want to do is just create a static mesh out of this thing, because eventually we want to make a blueprint out of it so we can drag a bunch of them into our map. So we can use the original one. Well, you know what? I'm going to actually just copy this in case we blow it, and then we still have one. Okay, so there it is there. So let's right click on it, and I'm going to come down here to, well, first thing we're going to do is create a folder, which, oh, we already had a folder. Okay, we've got a blueprint folder, perfect. All right, so we've got that clicked. We want to come down here into brush settings, create static mesh, and let's just go ahead and click that. And we're going to put it into Tom Custom Assets, and we're going to put it into our blueprint folder there. And let's call it, oh, I don't know, Target Man Mesh 1. All right, and let's go ahead and create static mesh, and there he is there. Okay, now we can delete these two. Now, one thing we do want to do with the static mesh, we can delete these two now. Well, let's keep this one just for the fun. All right, let's pop open that static mesh, and we want to put a collision on it. And it's super easy to do. Now, if we want to make sure that this collision is clicked, and it is now, well, we're going to show simple collisions. Okay, there it is there. And we see that there's no collision, and there's no, normally we see a sort of a green outline that indicates a collision, and we don't have any collision there. So let's come up here to collision, and we'll add simplified box. Add box simplified collision there. Now we can see that the green little outline, that tells us we've applied collision. And just want to make sure again that this collision here is clicked so we can see it. Okay, there that is there. Let's go ahead and save. That's done. We can close that. So there is our basic static mesh. So now we can start kind of moving ahead with creating a destructible version of it. So there it is there. So let's take a look at how to apply damage to our line trace. That is, we want our line trace whenever we shoot something to create some damage. So we're just going to come onto that root folder. We're going to go into our first person blueprint, blueprints, first person character. If you remember in our past video, we created this little function line trace just to keep our little, see here, our event graph tidy because we didn't want to put it all in here. So we created it as a separate function so we can work in here. So in this area in the line trace, to allow the line trace to actually create damage is quite simple. We just need two nodes. So the first one we're going to add here is break hit result. So let's go ahead, break hit result. There it is there. And I'm not going to explain this too much. You have a lot of control over how to sort of decide what you're going to do with your line trace. We're going to keep it really simple, and we're just going to, well, I'll show that in a second. Our second component that we're going to need here, or sorry, our second node that we're going to need here is we want to go apply damage. Just that simple, and it's a function. There it is there. We want to make sure we set the value, and you will probably want to create this value to be constant. That is, have a constant value for your array trace, sorry, your line trace to create. In this case, we're going to say 100. And then your enemies or your actors, that's when you can mess with their hit points and make them, you know, weaker or stronger. And I'll explain that in a moment. So let's just make sure that 100 is there. So how we connect this up, we can come out of here in our hits, and we can just go to hit, just like that. Then out of our break hit result under hit actor, because this time we're just saying, hey, when you hit an actor, inflict 100 damage. We're going to drag out of here. Our hit actor, and we're going to come out of here to damaged actor, just like so. Then we're going to come out of our line trace by channel, and we're going to connect that up to there. And that's all we need to do for our line trace. So basically, we're telling the line trace, hey, whenever you hit an actor, apply 100 damage. So let's go ahead and compile and save that. Let's come out to our map, go back to our content folder. Let's go back into our custom folder, into our blueprints. And we're going to create a little blueprint for our target just so we can drag a bunch of them into our map. So let's right click, let's come up to, let's see here, blueprint class actor, and let's call this, I don't know, target man 1, because we're probably going to have more than one eventually. So, okay, there it is there. Let's pop that open, and let's dock that so we can see it. There we are there. All right, so first thing we're going to do is let's add a component. Let's just drag in a cube, just like so. Let's rename it. So let's go target man. We can call it target man. Well, let's go target man 1 to keep consistent. Hit enter. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to apply that static mesh for that target man that we created. So where's that target man 1 mesh? There it is there. Now, one thing we do have to do is don't forget that when we create the static mesh, we actually have two materials on there. It's put the 1 on there, but it's not put that black in there. So we'll come in here into element 1, and we'll select our black material if we can find it. There it is there. Okay, there that is. Now, the last thing we want to do here, actually our static mesh does have collision, so I think we're okay. Yeah, so that's fine. So that's all we need to do there. Okay, perfect. So let's compile and save. Let's come back into our map. Well, actually, no, we don't want to come into our map. We want to go back into this guy here. So let's go into our event graph for our blueprint. So let's get rid of all these guys here. All right, so the first node we want to create here within our little guy blueprint is event any damage. Let's put that guy in there. Let's zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. Now we want to create a variable. So let's add new variable. Let's call that variable health. And let's change it to a float, like so. And we're going to have to compile it because we can't put any value. So let's compile. Now we can put a value in. So we're going to set this guy's health at 100. So basically, he's going to be an easy target. One hit, it's going to be destroyed. When we make harder targets, we can put, higher health, base health here. So let's just go with 100 first. All right, so there's a little float. So let's grab that. Well, that variable didn't get renamed. Come on now. I'll rename that variable to health. There we go. All right, there it is there. So let's drag that in. And let's get it. Let's drag out of here and do our minus key. And we're going to float minus float, just like that. And that can stay in that top thing. Let's just drag this up here for now. And let's just tidy this up. There we go. All right, we've got that. So let's come out of our damage, and we're going to go into this float minus float. So let's go there. Okay, that's good. Then the next thing we want to do is put in another node called set health. Set health. So there it is there. I want to drag out of here this event any damage and hit that. And then we're going to come out of our float and we're going to hit the health. All right, just like that. Now we're going to drag out of here and we're going to put a less than or equal to. So I'm going to hit my shift less than key. So it's a less than and equal to float, which is there. And that's fine. We're going to create a branch. There it is. And I'll just explain what this is all doing in a second. So we're going to come out of here and hit our condition. We're going to come out of here, set, and hit our branch like so. Now, rather than coming out of true and just destroying, I'm going to put a little emitter in there, like a little explosion. So let's go spawn emitter, at location. There it is there. Let's get our target man again. Well, actually our target man, which is in our blueprint. So we're going to drag him in there, just like so. And we're going to get his world location. And again, I'll explain this in a moment, what we're doing. Get world location, like so. And we're going to drag this out into location, like so. So that's done. And out of our true, we want to hit this. And then finally, we want to come out of here and let's destroy the actor. Destroy actor. If I can actually type. Okay, there it is there. Destroy actor. So let's explain this real quick. So what we're doing here is we're setting our actor's health at 100, which is our little variable here. Then we're bringing in our damage from our line trace, and based on if we have any damage, it's going to set that damage based on that base 100 that we set in our line trace. So we're going to subtract our base health from our actor, which is 100. We're going to subtract 100 from the damage that we take from the line trace. Then we're going to have a look to see if our total at this point is less than or equal to 0. So if we've got a base health of 100, and we're minusing 100, we are going to end up with 0. So our condition then is going to be true. So if that's true, we're going to come down here and spawn our little emitter, and then we're going to destroy the actor. Oh, I can see that we forgot to assign an emitter here. So let's just hit that particle explosion, p_explosion. That's just a particle that's in our base content there. All right, so there that is. Let's go ahead and save and compile. So at this point, we should be able to go back in the map. And one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the name of this guy real quick. Put in a blueprint at the end just so we know it's a blueprint. Oops. Target man 1 BP. Okay, there he is there. So let's drag him in. And now we should be able to go ahead and shoot him, and he should disappear and we should see a particle. Okay, there it is there. So that's a good base. So I think we're going to wrap that up for today. And then in the next video, we're going to add our score HUD as well as that little 100-point fly up or 10-point fly up that we demonstrated prior. So we're going to wrap it up here. So again, I'd like to thank everybody for joining me, and make sure you join me for part 2. So we'll finish up this little section. Again, if you haven't subscribed already, please mash that button. It doesn't cost anything. It's no obligation. It really does help us out. And I'd really like to thank all my new subscribers. I got a bunch of them over the holidays, so I'd really like to thank you all. So keep editing, and I really want to make sure that everybody stay well, and all the best, and we'll see you in the next one.